Welcome, guys.
Hi all. This is how I look at 9:35 in the night. That's where
After
recording.
a full day of hard work, this is how Bhargavi looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Bangalore, we are live from Bangalore, and we look pretty fresh. That's why Bangalore makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Maybe at 9:30 in the night you guys will be partying.
Yeah. There's a party today, as I said.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
plan.
Karthik, we should just go. You also can join in. I'm saying, yeah. Let's barge in and find answers to some unanswered questions that we were discussing today.
Okay, what are we
All
discussing
right, I'm
today?
doing this from a cafe, so I have a very poor internet connection. Looks like.
Okay. Okay.
Let's try to make the
Bhargavi,
best
that's
of
a good
the situation.
that's a good opportunity to keep Karthik out of all these conversations for today, and let's take over. Yeah.
I
Okay,
was
Karthik,
planning to
we
do
heard
that
you.
part today.
Evil
I was
plan,
planning
evil
to be
plan.
a host today because then you can't blame me if I sleep off midway.
Yeah, please. Yeah, now you can be the host. Karthik will listen in. Yes, please go ahead. Yeah, shoot all your questions to Karthik and me. Yeah.
Yeah. First to Karthik because he's the one who uh, acts as host and roasts us every week. So, first question to Karthik. Welcome back, Karthik. How is your transition back to India? How was your US trip? And which country do you like better?
Yeah, or Costa Rica. Which are the one in
Oh, yeah,
US?
Costa Rica too. So, yes.
Yeah.
Guys, my whole life is out in the open.
Hey, it's
I
okay,
loved
man.
Costa Rica, man. Costa Rica was
Uh,
amazing, dude. It's a beautiful tropical country. I also like Spanish language, so I think it was extra special for me. The South American culture, and the Spanish language, the food. I really enjoyed it.
Nice, Karthik.
Yeah, but
Fantastic.
US or India, where would you settle down professionally and where would you settle down personally?
Oh, now I'm thinking about, all possible
I
options,
can't hear
Bhargavi.
you. Bad
I'm
connection.
like, I'm like, yeah, scratching Karthik now.
There are more unanswered questions that I have, but that is post recording, maybe.
I got
I'm
some
in the
answers,
flow for
Bhargavi.
Karthik today.
No, I got some answers, when I met him day before, I think, or when he
Oh.
came on the first day. Some answers I got. Yeah, I wish the answers were, as I was expecting. But yeah, in a way, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
It's more of the same. Status
Yeah,
quo.
more of the same, and also some scares, I would say, in a way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
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 Okay, so
No,
let's.
but it was great to be back, Bhargavi. The weather is amazing in Bangalore. So I was on the East Coast for the most part, right? So it was very cool winters, very cold winters. It's great to be back in Bangalore. The traffic, it didn't seem like a lot when I came back.
Oh,
So I
okay.
nicely eased into Bangalore life.
Okay, that is the first thing to note. Like, traffic was not bad. Maybe it's because of your new house,
Hmm.
The new house?
the one that you moved in,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely, for sure, right?
more
I
closer
think
to work. Maybe because of that.
absolutely. Now I can reach office in 45 minutes. 10 kilometers in 45 minutes in Bangalore is just amazing.
I know.
Hmm.
I see such traffic here in the weekends when the city starts to party.
Oh, yeah. Bangalore weekends. Okay, I mean, weekends are no more fun for me. I think last 5 weekends have been like literally doing one or the other day of work. Hardly had one Sunday, I think, Bangalore weekends are not interesting for me anymore. Maybe in next month, maybe it'll get interesting again. Yeah. But one good thing is there is this Bangalore International Center right next to our office, right? I think that's a nice place. A lot of interesting things keeps happening. I think today there's a event on imagining Bangalore, and there's some events for kids over the weekend. Obviously, I can't go. Looks like, but there's a lot of fun action. I like that. The more I spend time around our office, actually, I'm liking that even better than what I initially thought. Yeah, and that's something. And last week, coming back to food, right? Karthik came to Bangalore, and he was like, "I want to eat the South Indian thali," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, let's go." That we did that. I think so. He's like not eaten a South Indian thali for a long time, so I think we
Special
did that.
special thali, not just any thali.
Not just any thali. It was like special thali with whatnot served. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think on news, back to business. I think interesting news, Bhargavi. Maybe you can talk a little more. Is UPI is launched worldwide? Looks like over a series of small steps, but it's being launched. And today, last week, or this week rather, we had the prime ministers of India and Singapore, transferring money with the help of their respective governors or monetary authorities. That's like massive news, right? Any thoughts? Because both of you are in the US now. You can't use. Oh, you were in US, Karthik. Sorry, and you couldn't use UPI and all like we do, and we had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
No,
think
Vinod, I think
UPI, to touch upon that, right? I think UPI is also opening up NRIs or non-Indian residents to use
mhm.
UPI. I think that's also getting started in a month's time, using foreign phone numbers. So that's also going to be extremely interesting to see, to make purchases in India, to make small denomination transfers to India. I think that is very interesting as well. But Singapore it's amazing because it's also the finance capital, and it's great that India has done this with uh, the country. One of the countries in finance, and Singapore government is also generally more adaptive to digital technologies. So I think this is good, and other countries will follow suit, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think I expect other countries to kind of come back, and apparently they've launched it in other countries. I was just looking at some graphics. It says UAE
Middle
is
East also
pretty
they
close
use
to.
they launched.
Yeah, they already launched, and then France is in the process. UK is in the process, and Nepal, Bhutan is already up.
Yeah, that is
That
all
way
that.
neighbors are covered close to. Singapore coming on board. I mean, Southeast Asia, given that number of tourists that visit Southeast Asia from India has gone up significantly. I think they are planning to cover that regions also. Yeah, massive exercise, right? It also kind of starts showing, the other macro aspect, of slowly India's emergence and, if not dominance yet, at least, starting to
I think
pull.
we're not baby steps in the ascent of India story, right?
Yeah.
Um, just the quantum of money remitted from Singapore to India is about $1 billion annually, right? It's gonna have an immediate effect for all the expats living in Singapore right off the bat, and they can do up to $500 a day, which is a significant amount of money, right? When I was in the US, I used to send some portion of my earnings back to home, and I always used to struggle to figure out which is the best way to send so that I don't have to pay these remitting companies like Western Union in the middle. I think it'll have a very tangible effect on people. But my question regarding this whole topic is really, uh, can this eventually be a competitor to something like Swift? Which is what essentially it's a powerful tool in the hands of the only superpower in the world, right? As we can see, how they constricted Russia with that. Um, is this like baby steps towards that?
I was going to
I
say
think
that, right? I don't know whether it can become a competition, but at least from the country's point of view, you are reducing your reliance on something like Swift, right?
correct.
So you don't put yourself in the position of somebody controlling your inflows and outflows. And I think this is a trend which is not happening just in finance and money flow. I think this is a trend which will now start happening in water, which will start happening in energy. I think this is a trend which will now start happening in having multiple partners for some of the critical things to run your country.
Yeah,
That's how I see it, right? India is probably becoming more truly global, not reliant on just one, and becoming more self-sufficient in at least
yeah.
finance.
No, I think if you look at it, Karthik, like even from a Swift, right, it's a very centralized system, like you're saying, right, controlled by mostly US and Europe, right? And it's a central system. Somebody's got an organization. If you look at UPI's implementation on with other countries, it's a one-on-one partnership between India and UK, between India and France, between India and that way, right? It's got a lot of resilience and redundancy, right? Even if one country revokes access, right, rest of the countries will still be able to work with us, and the other countries can eventually adopt the platform UPI and integrate between those two countries. In a way, it's like multipolarity within that system. And I mean, there's no central system like a Swift, which costs a lot of money unnecessarily because you have, you know, banks intervening all the time, to a reserve currency, goes to a US currency, then a US bank comes into play unnecessarily. You pay an additional cost. Even if you're transferring between India and Singapore, if it's denominated in dollars, then it has to have a US intermediary. Example, right? Given that US is like the reserve currency. Now, maybe we'll completely avoid that scenario, right? Maybe we'll settle between India and Singapore with the. Now, that's what is likely to happen. I think. I think we don't need one more currency. The SWIFT system introduced an intermediary,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
cost, and somebody
Yeah,
else was making money on it, without doing too much of work, right? Just because you are the reserve currency,
That's the
that
next big
goes away.
question, right? It's like, are we ditching dollar in this process? Is this happening right
Uh,
we
now?
already
it,
started, right? When we did
slow.
the direct transfer, we
It's
already started
not.
doing it.
Yeah, it's not fully worked. That's what I'm hearing. There's a lot of settlements between India and Russia pending. Obviously, which they're willing to trust us. Some ruble settlements not yet fully in play, and also paying in dirhams. That's also all happening. But it's not fully yet clear, right? I mean, the dominance of the currency still exists. Yeah, I think, but it's a great play for us overall. The UPI leverage. But now I look back, right, after this launch, right, just on hindsight, the budget announcement of a 20% LRS, right? Now I'm thinking something like this will make money transfer so easy, and there is no friction in UPI, right? Technically, that is also probably one of the reasons, right? The government said, put a 20%, you know, TCS on LRS, because if they open this system, money will start flowing left, right, and center. And apparently, there's a massive amount of traveling happening by Indian citizens abroad, massive amount of movement of, money out of the country. I mean, Vietnam
No,
has
but
become like like example. I'm saying a patterns, Karthik. So this is all possibly one of those reasons, where LRS restrictions,
but
because
with LRS, Vinod, I think it's the foreign exchange is what RBI wants to
yeah, if you,
control as well, right? If you're
it is
not using
no, if
foreign
you,
exchange,
it is foreign
and
exchange,
you're
right? If I transfer to Singapore, Karthik, if I make a simple transfer to Singapore, it is foreign exchange, right? If I transfer money to UAE, then it's going to be foreign exchange, right? A UPI makes it
the foreign exchange
massively universal.
specifically with respect to the US dollar as an intermediary, right? That's what the exchange happens in. If you are bypassing that, right?
Huh.
Um, would something like an LRS still make sense?
Look, we have to still check what's the back-end reserve play there. I
How it
don't know.
happens?
I don't
Yeah, yeah.
how it happens. I don't know if US
Correct.
is a pegged currency, or does it happen between the two independent
don't
exchange,
think
right?
the simple UPI connection, that is the thing. US will still be dollars will still be the exchange currency.
Intermediary currency. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a risk, right? There's a risk between India currency against Singapore, India against dirham, right? So there will be some de-risking with some other currency, I'm assuming. I don't know because nobody will take India as the reserve currency. Right? That's what you're telling. If you are
Right.
saying what you are saying, then India is becoming the default reserve currency in that mechanism somehow. I doubt, people are willing to do that yet. Maybe there is some other mechanism or de-risking, but there is no risk because the settlement can happen in seconds. So unlike a Swift system, it can take a day or two. This happens immediately. So that means if your exchange rates are matched and everybody agrees, right, then you're more or less sorted. Settlement risk is lower compared to a Swift system. But yeah, we'll have to see how the details get worked out. Would be good to know more actually. So yeah, Bhargavi was telling RBI has announced that foreign people, right? That was a notification that just came out a couple of days ago, I think, right? Others can use it. Clear notification that just came out. I saw that RBI notification was out, and I think people will start implementing that. That is also. Oh, sorry. This is a notification which says anybody coming into India from a foreign country, even a foreign citizen, can use UPI. That's the new notification. So people who come from outside NRIs, right? They look at our transactions, Karthik, and they think,
they have to take like an Indian number and then work with the
I
bank
know
within
foreign
the
number.
system.
No, foreign number also, I think, Karthik.
Foreign phone numbers work, but still Indian bank account is required, right? So that's why it's.
I think participating foreign banks can do.
No, they are making something different. I think I haven't seen the notification in detail. It came yesterday or day before. I think they just need the phone number, a KYC by one of the banks, I think, and then it's treated like a foreign transfer from their account to this account or something like that, and then the UPI starts working locally in India. Could be a massive, again, useful feature, right? So foreigners can spend and really feel that we have like a more than a first world infrastructure, especially on the payment system, and then that opens up multiple other things for this. Interesting. UPI is like a massive thing, guys. Yeah. And what else is caught our attention is that we did a event, Karthik or Bhargavi, right, in Coimbatore. Maybe we'll pull that up as we speak. Focus on Tier 2 cities in India. I'll tell you my learnings a little bit, right? For startups, right? And having been there now in Coimbatore for almost a year, that I've spent at least 2 days a month, literally, or more. I'm starting to see a pattern, at least in Tier 2 cities. You initially have a lot of outsourcing that happens. So the government's tidal park, or number of IT parks that's coming up in Coimbatore is huge, phenomenally huge. Seems like a first wave, just like Bangalore's 2000, right? That's the first wave that comes through, and then slowly, that relates to a product wave. And we are investing in a Coimbatore company, and I saw another VC investing in a Coimbatore company. And today morning, just before this conversation, we saw that one more transaction advised by a good friend, law firm of ours, also advised another firm there. So it is starting to pick up action in some of the Tier 2 cities. Actually, which are the Tier 2 cities that will be really good to go after will be an interesting, and there will be a few VCs, who would capture the Tier 2 market. Like Pune, right, there are a few VCs now, and there's a lot of action that comes out of Pune, for example. Can Coimbatore be the other city potentially? And I just saw a company from, this is not a Tier 2, really from Udupi, right? One or two companies. I think there are a few cities in the next line of action. My guesses are in the south, right? Coimbatore, Visakhapatnam. I would bet on those two places, Karthik, if you ask me. And and the north, I think our middle India, Pune is there to an extent. Indore could be a great opportunity. And then the Gujarat, I would say Ahmedabad is again untapped. We will probably start seeing some place coming out of Ahmedabad, Surat. I mean, these are cities where I'm seeing action. That's actually great because cost of
Jaipur too,
comes to
there's a
yeah,
lot of
Jaipur.
activity
Yes,
coming
yes,
from
yes.
Jaipur.
Rajasthan. Yes, I'm hearing Jaipur also a lot of action. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wouldn't put Pune as a tier 2. I don't think Pune is tier 2 because it has a very matured tech ecosystem, right? We know a couple of our startups run out of Pune. So I think the other cities that you mentioned, yes, but it's interesting. We talk about tier 2 cities. One of the other patterns that we are also seeing is um, there are, yes, a lot of people building a lot of products, but some of the founders, in terms of the knowledge, in terms of their exposure, also has long way to go. And maybe VCs have a big role to play there, because we also see these founders giving up way too much equity way too early in their journey, or still holding on to the service part of their business, not entirely looking at it from a product angle. There is nothing wrong in doing that, but not everything has to be VC fundable, right? So then those founders should know what is VC fundable, what is not VC fundable, these aspects as well. So I think there is a lot of work which is required in terms of educating the ecosystem, and in terms of knowledge, because these ecosystems still raise capital from traditional businessmen who are generally the first supporters, which is great. But
No,
they
which is
also,
not great. I will disagree, Bhargavi. I'll to an extent in tier two cities, raising from existing businessmen in tier two cities is an absolutely bad idea from my experience. I'll tell you why after you
I
finish.
know,
Yeah.
I was going to complete it, right? They also start giving up way too much, right, when they do it, because these business people look at probably their personal benefit, and not look at in future, if you have to bring in institutional capital, what's going to happen to this company. So when I said it is great, these are general first supporters, right? So they let the company go and reach the finish line in terms of product, maybe, or get their initial customers. But when the rubber hits the road, when they actually need institutional capital, then it all hell breaks loose. They have to restructure the capital. I think we see these instances over and over. I have seen
Yeah.
this in Surat. We have seen in Coimbatore. So yeah, I think that is something
Yeah,
which,
so I'll tell you the traditional mindset, right, in some of these cities, right? I mean, nothing to blame. It's just that the evolution of mindset happens, right? They all are likely running a traditional business or a current business, right? And they see to some extent, what all is happening in the technology world as a threat or a risk. So what they want to do is be close to it and absorb that as much as possible, but really not try and push the envelope by supporting them in a bigger way, because they don't want competition for themselves, which is like a very mindset problem. It's not about anything else, right? I think somewhat the as VCs, right, and also ecosystem players, our duty to tell them, look, it's actually good for the city, it's good for your ecosystem, in the longer run and the larger view of things, right? Because what's currently happening is they encourage with a small check, take massive equity, and if the company is going down, right, they try to acquire that company, or they make sure that the company eventually ends up, with no money or something, and they acquire the company because they have massive stakes that they end up taking. So, which itself is like discouragement for people there, because they'll see you have to see successes in each of the cities, for that city to kind of become successful. If you don't see successes emerging from each of these cities on their own footing, right, then they always keep looking up to cities like Bangalore and Delhi, right, and Chennai, and they are like kind of disheartened or disencouraged, saying we can't do this, right? That experience puts
yeah.
people down.
Vinod, I won't generalize the ill intention. I think it's also a huge knowledge
It's not
gap,
ill. It's not
because
ill intention, Bhargavi. It's insecurity. If you ask me, it's not even
again, I
intention.
won't
It's insecurity.
generalize that. I won't generalize, because I think that is also the traditional way of doing business. That's what they have been doing, and it's a knowledge gap. They don't know how VC things, or they have seen private equity
Yeah.
people. Maybe many of them have seen, especially if they have built large businesses, but not a venture capitalist, everybody, right? So one example is there is a D2C brand. They are fairly large now, and I was surprised to see them in US retail outlets also. And it was completely funded by the family. And when I spoke to them, the family held like 70% equity or 80% equity in the company. And I said, look, it's not going to work. Um, and then the young generation who's actually running the business went back, and they restructured the complete business. And I did give them a couple of ideas on how they could do, and they also engaged professionals. And now they are actually a startup. So they did a beautiful restructuring, and they are now in the market raising capital. um, Whether they raise or not is different, right? But the fact is, the family or people who were their earliest supporters, these guys were able to educate them and tell them, if we need to raise institutional capital, this is what we have to do, ABC, and this is what you guys have to let go, and instead what you are going to get. So I think sometimes it's a knowledge gap. Sometimes it's things like what you are saying, idea that can I acquire this company later, and can I fold this into my umbrella, and things like that.
Yeah, I think, see, look, that's what we are trying to do when we go to other cities, smaller cities, right? Try and help on, understand this knowledge gap and try and fill. See, I mean, obviously, not all VC businesses are great, or not traditional businesses are bad or something, right? It's like each one, kind of suits who the founder is and the kind of market that is, right? So there is no one size fits all approach. But at the end of the day, I think, we'll have to find if the next generation and new capital, new businesses have to thrive, right? We'll have to be open to multiple ideas. And I think there's all these cities, right, will open up, and they're already warming up. That's my view. Like, I mean, looking at the action in the cities that I've been to, at least now, two of the cities that I've mentioned. I also was in Kochi recently. I mean, Kochi's problem is absolutely something else, actually. It's not relatable to even these kind of these cities, right? Their government is willing to invest, government is pushing hard, but talent is not willing to sit in this in that state, right? I put this on LinkedIn or on my Twitter. It's like a very disappointing state when I go back, and I came back and thinking about it, right? Talent is no more going to UAE or the Gulf countries from Kerala, for example, or Kochi for that example, right? Because that means money would have got remitted and something would have come back to the Indian economy. The new generation is going to UK, is going to US, is going to Australia, Canada. They are not going to come back. They are not
Yeah.
going to come back. Money is not going to come back. I think we will see the average age of Kerala touching some of the developed countries. Average age, demographically, the standard of living might be higher than average of all other states put together. But it will become a place for old age people very soon, or it already becoming in some sense. The new generation really doesn't even want to try. The best of the talent is out of the country or out of the state, which is a very sad state. Again, it's a combination of social, economic reasons, I think, where the state is. Unfortunately, I mean, the government tries whatever that they can, but obviously the government is by the same socio-economic strata. They can try these verticalized action, but the underlying is a much, much massive problem, which will start becoming visible in the current decade, right? And something has to break there. I mean, I wouldn't want to call it as like a revolution, but something will have to break off there. Break in a sense, the political thinking, the economic thinking has to change for a state like that to thrive. In the startup technology space. I think, I know, vicious thinking in my part, but I've had those discussions even with locals there. Everybody wants it, but nobody is going to get it yet. In a way, yeah.
See, the contrarian take there, right? The traditional businesses or the household businesses of Kerala, some of them are some of the largest businesses in the country today, right? So, but they are not startup. So I think there is still a lot of such businesses still people are continuing to. It's a very entrepreneurial state in some parts of the state where business is like job for them, right? They don't look at working somewhere. Whoever is staying back, that is. So why startups, right? So the state could still thrive by not raising external capital, by building businesses.
But I mean, I know I'm going a little deeper here, especially on this particular state, right? I don't know why, because I like the food of that state. I love traveling to that state, and sometimes it's somewhat, it feels very personal also to me at some level.
Maybe
You're a
we are in
Malayali.
startups, so we
Uh,
have a myopic view, right? So I think they are
You're, you're,
fine the way
no, no,
they
you're
they're
a
were.
not.
Malayali in your,
No.
you're a Malayali in
Uh,
your previous life. That's why.
Yeah. So no, I think Bhargavi, the read of that market, right? People there are happy. I'm saying, their standard of living compared to an average Indian is way higher. I'll give it to you that, right?
Exactly.
It is equalized, definitely. There is no parity is less, all that agreed. But the parity is also a hindrance. I wouldn't say full hindrance, but it's also a reason why a real capitalism is not able to thrive there. And that's why the best of the talent there. See, when I say talent, obviously I'm talking about the talent that we are talking, right? A Karthik will never be able to live there, right? Karthik will not want to go and sit and start a VC from there. And a startup is not able to have the ecosystem there because there's no talent which is sitting there, right? So if talent is not there, that ecosystem is not going to get built. So I'm saying it, an underlying, you know, so, okay, Karthik, maybe I should tell Vizag, now that why is Karthik not sitting in Vizag or Amravati or something like that? I'm just going to pull this out now. So, conducive systems cannot happen without an underlying political system, is what I'm starting to realize. Average,
we
see, it
we
might be
we know
good.
we already have case studies in the US, right? Why is Austin a thriving startup ecosystem, but not Los Angeles or Atlanta, right? Even though they're much bigger cities and whatnot. I think, like you said, the conditions that they're trying to create in that city, in that particular state, is attracting talent, right? I think that's the most important thing. Even though we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurial activity in these second tier cities in India, right? Eventually, they're
Hmm.
gravitating towards Bangalore. Most of them, and the next, they're preferring NCR because that's where the talent is. Uh, unless we create those conditions, it's good that Kerala is investing, I don't know, 100 crores, 1,000 crores in startups that they've earmarked. Orissa government is also doing something similar, 100 crores or something to that effect. But at the end of the day, right, lofty goals are just not enough. Are you creating the necessary conditions at the ground level, to attract talent and make them stay there? Of all the places that have figured this out, it was Bangalore, uh, and then maybe Hyderabad to some extent, and obviously NCR, right? But they're reaching the saturation now, and if they have not already, if somebody can replicate those
And I
sort of
think
sort of
Kolkata is a
startups.
great case study, right? So it's a metro, and but it doesn't feature anywhere in the top probably 10 startup friendly cities or ranking. I think it's
Bhargavi, same problem.
same.
There
That's
is
what I was
there
going to.
same. It is the Kerala problem applies to Calcutta to a great extent.
Yes.
To an extent, Calcutta is frozen in time and frozen in ideas and frozen in its own what you call pride, if I have to use the word right. Uh, it is frozen there. It is impossible, right? If you ask me, between Kerala, little time that I've spent again, everything is available for the people who already made it in Kolkata. They don't want like a neo-rich culture to come and play there. Bangalore allows for that thriving culture of neo-rich, ideas, and the old. I know it might sound controversial, but it is also a function of that, right? The
I think it's we should just separate the entrepreneurship with startups. I think even Kolkata has a lot of entrepreneurs, and we still see it, right? I think we had a couple of great entrepreneurs coming from that state in Shark Tank also last season. So I think startup or promoting startup, attracting capital is more with respect to the ecosystem and the players who are there who is setting shop, which these cities have long way to go still.
Base
But
Bhargavi, base layer is naive. That's my underlying theory for those two states, saying, the political economical system or the social economic system doesn't allow to thrive for these ideas. Simple as that logic, if you ask me. If that is not there, see, Odisha could be slightly different, but these two systems, it's like a social economic system. Very hard to break it. That can't be broken up in like a decade and all, right? That'll take like multiple decades to break a social, economic, political system and ideas of thriving, right? So it's not possible. So I would not bet too much on, especially those plays, from my understanding. Yeah, yeah.
okay, enough controversy for one day.
I think more than controversy, I think it's like the reason it keeps coming back, right? To me is of all complaints about Bangalore traffic, right? A lot of them complain. I tell them, yeah, you can complain, right? That's fine. But after you reach some few years here, right, the friction seems to be like okay to live with. And if it was so frictionless a city, right, everybody would just come here, right? I think some amount of friction is actually good because this city can't hold, it can hold only so much for what it's built for, right? So we have
Exactly.
to build
See,
new
Bangalore is a
cities.
different issue, right? I think the infra was never planned for expansion
No,
like
it's not
this. It's
planned for
weird,
1.6
and
crore,
there is no space.
1.56 crore. There's no space.
Given the
There is
terrain
no.
of the city, there is no space. That's it. Over.
Yeah, we are sitting on a 900-meter plateau. There's only so much space. After that, you have to hit the
Exactly.
valley,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
You have to hit the
The
valley.
place I am in, right? San Diego is a very hilly terrain with shore, but the infra. So today we see a lot of traffic in San Diego because of influx. So when we see California reports, right, there is a huge influx of people who have moved from SFO and Bay Area into cities like San Diego. So now at certain time we are seeing some traffic, but still the infra can handle much more. Whenever the infra was built like 100 years back, 200 years back, they at least built it with the view which would sustain for so long. I think in Bangalore it was not designed that way. That's it.
Yeah, I think Karthik, that's probably a good note to end, and I'll announce two interesting things that's happening in Bangalore this week or next week. The Bangalore-Mysore Expressway will get inaugurated by the Prime Minister this week. Then we also have the
Oh wow,
Whitefield,
the whole stretch,
yeah,
the
the
whole
whole
stretch,
stretch.
Vinod.
Yes, yes, the whole stretch all
Nice.
the way. So I should have a drive over the weekend. Looks like. Let me see. And looking forward. And then the Whitefield Metro, Karthik, it's
Time for Mysore to
almost.
shine.
Yeah, yeah. I am like surprised why, right? Mysore can do way better, right? The weather is beautiful, the city is
Hmm.
beautiful.
Yep.
But yeah, people are keep telling me, don't spoil this like Bangalore. I'm like, fine, what can I? Everybody has their own
Yeah.
preferences, right? In a way, interesting. And Karthik, you have your metro coming through shortly. That's also approved yesterday, so hopefully you will see it in like next month. You can come to
It's
office in
uh,
metro.
it's only to till Kerpuram, Vinod. I already checked.
Yeah, I know that last mile is still going to be happening, but it's good. You'll reach our office like in 40 minutes, maybe in
Same
quicker.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
But
reaching already at 40 minutes. Same time.
yeah, yeah, but
Same
look,
time without stress.
yeah, climate change we see, have to think about
Yeah,
climate also. Yeah. Yeah,
that is true.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Anything else, folks? Otherwise, I'm like packed, looking forward to a packed weekend also. Yeah.
I think Vinod, why don't we just close it on that? You're doing travel trips, right? Are you going to be meeting some startups while you're traveling?
Yeah, yeah, I will meet a few startups also in on this trip. Let's see how it goes. Yeah. Yeah, Chennai wants to emerge, man. The next big thing that I can tell you, they have the hunger. They at least are trying to be, position themselves as, wanting to be the next big thing among the startup cities. They're saying, why there is no consumer startup coming out of Chennai. Again, it's the underlying thing. Frankly, a consumer startup will come, but it'll take time.
All right. So if you're a deep tech, climate tech, clean tech, or a SaaS company in
SaaS
Chennai,
company,
please knock on.
yeah,
Yeah, please knock on Vinod's door.
yeah. I would love to catch up. We should do more in Chennai also. I've started liking these cities. Amazing food again wherever I go. I've started liking, these cities.
All right, man. On that
Uh,
amazing note, guys, have a good weekend. We'll see you again next week.
See you
Yeah,
guys.
bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Take care.
Have a good weekend.